My doctors told my husband and I that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. Trigger warning. This was a planned baby and I'm absolutely devastated. Me 31F and my husband 30M met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are gonna wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral/political views before even getting engaged and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20 we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily we are in a good financial place, so I agreed and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years rarely. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care, as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternal leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities? I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of the child. Now, we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already. I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. Update. Thank you all so much for the advice and kind words. I'm sorry I haven't responded to many chats and comments. I've read through them all. The empathy and compassion shown is truly touching. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed and it was still our originally diagnosed. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept on raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now, but I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy. That I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room and apologized for everyone and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob and he held me all night. My original plan was that my mom would drive me to the hospital, then once it's done a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before, he said he couldn't miss a full day of work but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him, and then the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning the termination was done. It went fine with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. After I was done, he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there, I saw just one note on the counter saying he can't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless.